So good morning, everyone on the WebEx hearing and live on Charm TV. My name is Nicholas Blendy. I am the Deputy Executive Secretary for the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. And today is June 24th, 2021, and welcome to the board's virtual hearing. As you can see, we'll be going over some preliminary matters before the hearings begin. Our virtual hearing is conducted on the WebEx platform. WebEx is the online meeting platform that the City of Baltimore uses to conduct all of its virtual hearings, such as the Board of Estimates, the Baltimore City Council, and the Planning Department have been using WebEx since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. To fully utilize the WebEx system, members should have access to a laptop, iPad, smartphone, or some similar device, and have camera and microphone capabilities. If your device does not have microphone capabilities, then there is a dial-in number that you should be able to use that is listed at the bottom of the slide that will allow you to have audio, both hearing and speaking. To participate in the meeting, members should download the app as noted there. The link to the hearing is available online on our website under today's date. Board suggests that if you're going to use your smartphone or your iPad or similar device, that you download the application and have tested everything. If there's a member of the public who does not have access to a computer or a smartphone, they can call in and listen only, because we do need to have visual on you if you wish to publicly testify. For today's docket, all materials, evidence, and related items are available, as I said, on the Board of Liquor License Commissioners website under today's date and the hearing schedule. All evidence during virtual hearings, the board has adopted and observes a 48-hour rule for any evidence to be considered today. All items, emails, writings should have been submitted by 11 a.m. on Tuesday, June 22nd, to our Assistant Executive Secretary, Ms. Stacy Russell. The board does not accept any additional documents in person today. Of course, your oral testimony is welcome. Any amendments to any applications were not accepted after June 10th for any case being heard today. And all licensees and all applicants being heard today were additionally mailed a letter instructing them on how to operate. How today is going to operate, I will be reading the preliminary instructions and the general ground rules for the hearing process, which I'm doing now. I will then, when we get to the docket, call each case in the order it's listed on the short docket, and I will then ask the applicant and or his or her representative to identify themselves, and if applicable, have the applicant and any supporting witnesses that the applicant wishes to be sworn in by our court reporter. And as you've heard earlier, you'll be asked to spell your name for the record by our court reporter. The board will provide an opportunity for the applicant and his or her representative to present the case. The board might ask questions of the attorney or the applicant. At the conclusion of the case, the chairman will then ask individuals who are on the WebEx and who have access to the necessary devices if they would like to testify in support or opposition to the application. If you do wish to testify, I will then ask you to use the raise your hand feature on the WebEx platform, and then anyone who raises their hand, I will move into the panel on the WebEx, and the court reporter will swear everyone in, and then you will be heard before the board. After all evidence and testimony is presented to the board will vote on the application in front of them. The Assistant Executive Secretary will then read any exhibits into the record. And I note for everyone that the board is not authorized to discuss non-case related matters. It is sitting in its quasi-judicial capacity, and therefore it may only hear any testimony and evidence related to the matters before it on its docket today. General ground rules, we ask that you please mute yourself when you're not speaking to minimize feedback and extra noise. We ask that you identify yourself, as I made mention earlier, and please speak slowly in a clear voice so the court reporter can understand exactly what is being said and who is saying it. As noted earlier, this event is running live on Charm TV, and a court reporter is present. We ask all individuals to not use profanity, be disrespectful, or be unruly. If you are, you may be expelled from this hearing. All attendees, applicants, licensees, and members of the public who wish to provide testimony must be sworn, as I mentioned. Again, no physical evidence is being taken and no amendments may be made to any applications. We ask that you be prepared for today, that you've read the materials and tested your technology. Being in a good location matters. Quiet space with good light and a strong internet connection to be seen and heard is important. We ask that you be present, not be multitasking, so that when your item comes up, business can move along. And above all, we ask that you please be patient with yourself and with others. Again, we understand the technology of the virtual hearing is a thing that sometimes presents problems. With that, Mr. Chairman, the docket is in front of you. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, let's proceed.
And I note for the record, the fifth item on the docket has been postponed. First item before the board today, applicants Robert Brooke Voss and Peter DiPrinzio, JBGB2 LLC, trading as trade name pending, 2600 North Howard Street, Suite 1100, Baltimore, Maryland 21218. Applicant is, this is an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license and requesting outdoor table service. Ms. Hecker is counsel, and I am moving her in, and I believe, let's see, Mr. DiPrinzio and Ms. Hecker, is there anyone else that is testifying on with the applicant today?
No, it should just be Mr. Voss and Mr. DiPrinzio.
All right, I see Mr. Mannequin is on here, but I don't know.
I don't expect to need him to testify. I think he's just here to observe.
So Mr. Voss is now in as well. All applicants are in, and counsel is there, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ms. Hecker, will you identify yourself for the record, please?
Good morning, Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin, Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined by our two individual licensee applicants, Mr. Voss and Mr. DiPrinzio.
Let me ask the reporter to swear them, please.
Can all parties who are going to testify raise your right hand? Do swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Can you just state your names for the record?
Peter DiPrinzio.
Robert Voss.
Thank you. And I do have spellings for both of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hecker, you've submitted a detailed submission, which we've seen, but why don't you walk us through it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, as Mr. Blendy indicated, an application for a new Class B license for a project on North Howard Street. It's a space that was most recently operated as Parts and Labor Restaurant. It's been vacant for the last several years. As you mentioned, I did submit a series of exhibits for the board's consideration. There is an aerial image showing the property. It's located at the intersection of North Howard Street and 26th Street, and includes a one-story brick building that was historically operated as a tire and auto body shop. It was redeveloped in 2014 by Seawall Development into Parts and Labor Restaurant, which was a full-service whole animal butcher shop and restaurant that operated at this site until 2018. And there are a couple of news articles in the file that I've submitted that describe a little bit about the history of the property and the redevelopment. As I mentioned, Parts and Labor closed in 2018. The space has been used since then as sort of pop-up space for temporary restaurant uses, but hasn't had a full-time tenant since then. Mr. Voss, who is the owner of John Brown General and Butchery in Cockeysville, Maryland, signed a lease for the space earlier this year and announced plans to open a new restaurant at this location. It'll be very similar to Parts and Labor in that it will also include a full whole animal butcher shop as well. And this application was subsequently filed to approve a new Class B license. Now, there had been a license at Parts and Labor previously, similarly a Class B license. That license has expired for lack of use since 2018. The licensed premises is located in the C2 zoning district, which allows restaurants by right and also allows outdoor dining by right. This is a change from the old zoning code. Under the prior zoning code, the outdoor dining component was a conditional use that was subject to zoning board approval. That is no longer the case, so we don't need to go back to the zoning board to reapprove the outdoor dining at this location. Now, the proposed restaurant, John Brown General and Butchery, has a location in Cockeysville right now. This is going to be their second location. They they serve locally raised pork, lamb, poultry. They have a butcher shop. They have house-made sausages, pâtés, deli meats, preserves, pastries, and the new restaurant will offer locally sourced seasonal menu. As I mentioned, the property includes an outdoor seating area. We've included a floor plan with the exhibits that we submitted. The outdoor seating area is identical to what was approved for parts and labor and is also subject to a memorandum of understanding with the Greater Remington Improvement Association, which is also identical to the MOU that had been in place for parts and labor. So you'll see in the MOU and in the diagram that's attached to it that the outdoor seating area is divided into two areas. There's a sidewalk area and there's a plaza area. The sidewalk area will be limited to the restaurant use. They'll have table service through waitstaff at that location, and it will be for patrons of the restaurant only. The plaza area, by contrast, will be a public amenity that will be available for the enjoyment of the community as a whole. The customers of the restaurant can use the plaza to independently enjoy food and drinks, and they can go into the restaurant to buy a cocktail and bring it out to the plaza area, but the restaurant may not serve through wait staff within the plaza area. The only alcoholic beverages that can be served in the plaza area are those that are purchased from the restaurant. It's not patrons or, residents of the neighborhood or the community will not be permitted to bring outdoor alcoholic beverages that are from elsewhere to that site. So you'll see the MOU with the Community Association in the file, and as I said, it's the same terms that were approved as part of Parts and Labor's operation several years back. With regard to
they agreed to allow the terms of that to be part of the license?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, not at all. With regard to the requirements for the license, it does meet the minimum seating capacity of 75 seats. We have 84 seats inside, plus 16 seats at the bar and 104 outdoor seats. This, is clearly in excess of the 75 seats that are required for the Class B license. I would also note, just for the record, Mr. DiPrinzio is also on the license for Our House restaurant that's located just up the street from here. And there is a provision in the state law that requires that when an individual is on more than one Class B license, that the first license is a 75-seat requirement and subsequent licenses have a 125-seat requirement. The Our House restaurant has 212 seats, so it meets that 125-seat requirement. And this one has in excess of 75 seats. I would also just note that Mr. DiPrinzio had been the city licensee on the Parts and Labor license as well, so this is a continuation of the same situation with him. The restaurant meets the capital investment requirement of $200,000. The landlord is contributing about $390,000 in equipment to the restaurant, and then the tenant is making another $100,000 capital investment in additional equipment for the restaurant, and there is a detailed budget included in the file that I submitted. We expect that the new restaurant will create about 50 new jobs. They're proposing to operate from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily. They will have a policy to card all patrons who order alcoholic beverages to ensure that minors are not served. There is a fire pit component in the plaza area that you may have noticed on the floor plan. That will be maintained and regularly extinguished by the restaurant in accordance with the terms of the MOU. And they will offer a full menu for lunch and dinner. There's a sample menu that's included in the file. As I mentioned earlier, it will include locally sourced seasonal fare. We expect it'll change regularly, but there is a preliminary sample menu in the file. And we don't anticipate any difficulty meeting the food sales requirements for the license. The two individual licensees are both authorized members of the LLC, JBGB2 LLC. Mr. Voss is the controlling member of the LLC, and Mr. DiPrinzio is an authorized member. He's also the Baltimore City licensee. They've hired a general manager who will oversee the day-to-day operations of the restaurant. Mr. Voss will also be involved in the running of the restaurant. Both Mr. Voss and Mr. DiPrinzio have experiences with liquor licenses. They both have been on licenses for many years in the past. Mr. Voss is tip certified. All of the bar managers and all of the managers at the restaurant will also be tip certified. As I mentioned, Mr. DiPrinzio is our Baltimore City resident agent. He has lived in the city for 6 years. They are both familiar with the rules and regulations of the liquor board and agree to abide by them. With regard to the further criteria the board's required to consider, there is a public need and desire for the license as demonstrated by the MOU and the letter of support that you'll see in the file from the Greater Remington Improvement Association. This site has historically been a restaurant as Parts and Labor in the past. It's been a vacant site for the last several years, and the community and the property owner and the tenant all are excited to reactivate this space, which has stood vacant for too long. We also did reach out to the Remington Neighborhood Association as part of this application. I included in the file a copy of the email we sent them in April. We never received a response. We followed up a couple of times. We haven't been able to reach them to meet with them in person to discuss the project. There are a handful of existing license holders in the vicinity. We don't expect that the establishment of this restaurant at this location will have any impact on licenses in the surrounding area. Again, there had been a restaurant license issued for this site previously, and so we don't see this as a change. It does offer a uniqueness of services, particularly with the butcher shop component. It's as I said, locally sourced seasonal menu. We think this will add a nice variety to what's available in the area. So we believe it does meet the requirement of uniqueness of services, and we don't expect there to be any negative impact on health, safety, or welfare of the community. Again, we do have the MOU with GRIA, the Greater Remington Improvement Association, and the letter of support from that group as well. And we do agree to the terms of the MOU being included as part of the license. So for all of these reasons, we would request that the board approve the issuance of a new Class B license at this location. Mr. Voss and Mr. DiPrinzio are both here today. We're all happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I think Commissioner Guy might have been on mute. I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Guy?
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Blendy, are there others who wish to testify?
If any member of the, yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm aware that a few people do, but if for the rest of you, if any member of the public wishes to testify, please use the raise your hand feature. I note that I believe Mr. Petrus had mentioned earlier. I'm moving him in, and we do have one technological issue in that Miss Joan Floyd is having camera issues. She is called in, but there is no video. But if the commissioner wished for me to let her be heard, that would be the commissioner's choice, because that does not comport with the rule. But
let's swear Mr. Petrus and hear what he has to say.
okay.
Hi, can the board hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
We just need to swear you in, sir.
We need to swear you in.
All right, you have your right hand raised. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you state your name for the record?
Matthew Petrus.
Thank you. I do have the spelling.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Petrus. What would you like to tell us?
I would like to speak on how this all evolved to begin with. I mean, we sit here today to talk about what's in front of us. What the attorney for the applicant did not mention is all the previous applications that were made for the space. None had included such a drastic proposal. Certainly did not include a proposed 104-person outdoor seating arrangement in the previous applications that I was made aware of. In terms of what the nature of the surrounding neighborhood is like, while we do have corner bars and corner restaurants with, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 outdoor tables, we've never seen anything in the neighborhood quite like this. And even when Parts and Labor was operating, There were outdoor tables, and but again, it was a limited capacity and it was certainly manageable. While parking at times was certainly an issue, even as far up as where I am, which is I'm on the 2700 block of North Howard Street, which is a block up, and sometimes patrons would park there, and they would park into the 2800 block of Howard Street. It was never uh, too crippling of a problem. When we're looking at 104-person outdoor seating, they're more than doubling the capacity of what they have indoors, which will certainly cause a problem with the neighborhood. That in and of itself will be a problem. The bigger problem that I would like to get at is the amount of noise that will be generated from 104 people who will, through no fault of their own, they are patrons, they are free to carry on, talk, have fun, and enjoy themselves. However, the problem is this comes at the expense of surrounding neighbors. And just within 45 minutes on a Monday evening, I was able to go out and get 6 signatures, one from somebody on Howard Street from one of the photos. There's a set of row homes, and that was just from a block up. There was a resident there. 2 other people who I'd spoken to on the same block who are older gentlemen. While they declined to give a signature, they did not like the idea of such a capacity of people being able to, by right of, even though this restaurant says it will be able to, it only intends to operate from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. By right, they'll be allowed to operate and serve alcohol until 2 a.m., at least from my understanding. Right directly across from Parts and Labor is a building full of teachers for Teach for America. Now, these people obviously teach, so work starts for them between 7 and 7:30. I also would imagine that they're up much earlier than that, probably preparing, and probably up into the evening preparing lesson plans for their students. So the amount of noise that 104 people outdoors will be able to generate is more than what this neighborhood can really handle, in all honesty. Um, in terms of how they intend to accomplish this, they intend to take 6 feet of width through the entire length of Howard Street where the restaurant is, that is of public right of way. And I did some drawings and I included that and submitted it as evidence. And when you look at the drawing with the purple line, where the red line that sits between the red line and the green line, a quarter of their outdoor seating has to be taken away from the public right of way. And to me, this seems just, it's more than extreme. It's absurd. The dimensions for the seating arrangements, if we look at this example, I can just show it up here. Yeah, that's correct. I can show it up here. The aisleways that the patrons are being asked to sit in is 1.5 feet to at most a little over 2 feet wide. Now, as an adult male, that would be difficult for me to walk face forward to go down the aisle. I would have to turn to the side. Um, and this is certainly not in any way ADA compliant, which, those patrons would certainly would be the worse off. Seating arrangements like this are not typical of a restaurant. They're more typical of a bar scene. And while I understand that patrons simply have to walk inside to get alcohol and bring it outside, there's certainly nothing stopping them from doing that, and they're free to do that. And while I understand that they can serve food, people in this sort of seating arrangement, it is not typical to be this crowded in and huddled in order to eat food. I see this as an open air bar that by right, from the best of my knowledge, will be able to operate till 2 a.m. in the morning every night of the week. And even at 104-person capacity, even with the hours until 11 p.m. every night, while I understand Saturdays and Fridays are different, this neighborhood has never seen the type of noise that sort of capacity in an outdoor space will be able to generate. We're not opposed, or I'm not opposed to outdoor seating. I've discussed this with several neighbors, and they said if we could limit it to 25 or 26 patrons outdoors, which is a quarter of the indoor capacity, which to me seems perfectly fair, we would have no problem with that. With reasonable operating hours. Another issue that we also had was the fact that there is no wall to separate the cash and carry space that sits in front where alcohol will be served to the restaurant portion. So that also presents another problem that, people will be able to freely walk in, buy alcohol. I understand there's a butcher there. One of the previous proposals, I'm not sure if it's still in the proposal, that they would be able to purchase alcohol at the front counter. It would be a sipping area. But now we're creating a space where people will be able to walk indoors, line up, purchase alcohol, and carry it outside. You basically have a bar indoors and you have a seating area outdoors. Like I said, I see this as more of a bar thing. I don't really see this as a patron thing, and the idea of 104 people is unfathomable in a neighborhood such as ours.
So, Mr. Petrus, are you a member of one of the neighborhood associations?
I am. I'm a memberhood of the Remington Neighborhood Association.
And why didn't you engage with them when they offered it?
I did ask the president and vice president when I first heard about it. I originally heard about it through Charles Village Civic Association. And when I asked and since Charles Village Civic Association falls outside of that area, although I'm sure if I spoke with them, they may wish to weigh in on it, I talked to the president and vice president of RNA and said that they said that they stood opposed to it.
But they didn't, when Ms. Hecker reached out to them, they wouldn't respond. So did you attend the zoning hearings?
I didn't attend a zoning hearing. However, I did write a letter of opposition that I had emailed into them.
Because you understand that the seating issue is a zoning issue, not our issue. Okay.
Well, I don't believe the seating was 104-person seating was proposed to them at the time. This is a brand new.
I don't know. I wasn't there. Ms. Hecker, do you wish to respond?
That seems odd. I've never heard of that being mentioned. This is the first time I've seen the 104-person seating capacity was with this brand new proposal. There have been several iterations before that did not include 104-person seating capacity.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to respond. I wonder if it might be more efficient for us to hear from all of the opponents if there are others, and then I can respond collectively. Otherwise, I'm happy to respond to Mr. Petrus now and then.
That's right. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify that has anything additional to add?
So Mr. Chair, we do have Joan Floyd calling in, but she doesn't have video technology.
No, we can't swear her. Do you have anybody else?
If any member of the public wishes to testify, please use the raise your hand feature on the WebEx platform right now. Mr. Chairman, I do not see anyone else using the raise your hand feature.
Okay, Ms. Hecker, why don't you proceed then?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you rightly point out, the use issue of the outdoor dining is not an issue for the liquor board. That is a zoning issue. And the City Council, in enacting the new zoning code in 2017, decided to make outdoor dining allowable by right at this location. And there are no limits on the size of the outdoor dining, the number of seats, the layout, the configuration of the tables. We think this is a great layout that will be both a nice use for the neighborhood and for the restaurant. It really isn't different from what Parts and Labor had previously. There was mention of some earlier proposals. I'm not aware of what those might have been, but this, what we're proposing here with this restaurant is the same as what Parts and Labor had. They operated for 4 years without incident in the neighborhood. I will also mention that the landlord at this site is Seawall Development. They also operate Miller's Court across the street, which is the apartment building that Mr. Petrus referenced that is occupied mainly by teachers. And so they have a vested interest in making sure that this restaurant is not disruptive to the community. They're heavily invested in Remington. They have a number of other, residential, commercial operations throughout the neighborhood. And so it's in everyone's interest to make sure that this is a respectful operation and does not have any negative or adverse impacts on the neighborhood. There was also a mention about the butcher shop and having a separate license for the butcher shop. That's not before the board today. We will be applying to transfer another license that that is located in the neighborhood to the butcher shop, but that will be a completely separate licensed premises from this, and that's not what's at issue today. Today we're just here on the restaurant license. I'm
So,
happy to
Mr.
answer any
Petrus,
questions.
I just want to point out that I don't know whether you've reviewed the memorandum of understanding, but it's rather extensive between the Greater Remington Improvement Association and the licensees. To the extent that the liquor board has control over what goes on at this location, it will certainly address issues of noise and the way that they control their customers and the way that they impact the neighborhood. And if they are in violation of our rules and regulations, they will be violated, and we can suspend or revoke their license if they do that. And they're very much aware of that. With respect to the zoning issues, that's beyond our control. So I'm not quite sure. The best opportunity to deal with that would be to have the Remington Association that you're a part of engage with them and see if you can reach some agreement with respect to them. They've indicated what their hours are going to be. I take them at their word. So unless you have anything else, I think the commissioners would like to proceed.
May I offer additional testimony?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I understand we want to take them at their word. Is there a way that the liquor board can put constraints on operating hours?
No, that's a matter of legislative prerogative done by the General Assembly. If they're within the laws, they are permitted to do it. We don't control those things.
Okay.
But Mr. Chairman, if I'm correct, and Ms. Hecker, please, I'm sorry to interject. The memorandum of understanding, if I'm not mistaken, has limited hours, right?
I don't believe the hours of operation are in the MOU. I think I'll have to go back and check. I don't believe that the hours of operation are in the MOU.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further?
Can we ask that the MOU be revised to include hours of operation?
But you'd have to negotiate that with them. The board doesn't control the MOU. It's an agreement, a contract between the community association and the licensees.
Of course, I do understand that, but is it possible that we can have a hearing down the road, maybe put this to next week's hearing, and in order to get those hours in the memorandum of understanding?
I don't know whether that is even interested in that. Look, we have a community outreach individual. If your association wants to engage with these people, we'll ask him to assist them in doing that, and you can address with the licensees any of these issues through an association or any other legitimate organization in the community. Matt Ackheimer is our man, and we'll have him contact you, Mr. Petrus, to see if that's something that your association wants to do.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. Anything further, Ms. Hecker?
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, on the basis of your proffer and the exhibits before the board and the testimony received, I would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license with outdoor table service. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, based upon the proffer of Ms. Hecker and the information that was presented to the board this morning, I also would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license and outdoor table service.
And just, I failed to say, but it's going to be subject to the terms of the MOU between the licensees and the community association to the extent those terms are enforceable by law.
So, Mr. Petrus, I really appreciate your testimony. It's very thoughtful. I would tell you that the MOU process was, Ms. Hecker and her clients reached out to the organization in advance to, I think, engage in that MOU process and have those discussions. But I very much appreciate your comments, and I do think Mr. Ackheimer can help facilitate conversation. But based upon Ms. Hecker's proffer and the application before us, I too would approve new Class B license with outdoor table service, subject to the existing MOU to the extent it's enforceable by law.
Ms. Coates, for the record, applicant Exhibit 1, business plan, community Exhibit 1, packet of opposition A through E.
Thank you very
And
much.
Commissioner Guy, just for clarity of the record, did you intend to vote to have the memorandum of understanding be included to the extent it's enforceable by law?
Yes, yes.
That
Thank you all.
concludes this matter before the board. Applicant will receive follow-up instructions via U.S. mail with next steps on how to proceed in obtaining your license. Mr. Commissioner, or Mr. Chairman, are you ready for the next hearing?
Yes.
Let me do some, the board will indulge me while I do some housekeeping in the WebEx.
We have, oh, yes, Mr. Williams, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Williams is in the panel now. Mr. Williams, do I need to move Miss Weber in too?
Yes, please.
Miss Weber is in as well, Mr. Chairman, and
Okay.
that should be everyone. The next item before the board today, applicant Jennifer Weber, HM Charm City LLC, trading as trade name pending, 2 East Reed Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202. This is an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor hotel motel license and requesting outdoor table service. Mr. Williams and Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Williams, please identify yourself for the record, please.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Justin Williams from the law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg, here on behalf of the applicant HM Charm City LLC, joined virtually by Ms. Jennifer Weber, our licensee applicant.
Do you wish to have her testify, or are you going to proceed by proffer?
I'll proffer on her behalf.
Okay, thanks.
Do we need to swear? We don't need to swear her in.
Not if you're going to proffer.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, we'll let the obviously if the commission have any questions, we can go from there. Given the length of the docket, I'll be brief here. We submitted materials to the liquor board staff earlier this week with exhibits and information in support of our application. Briefly, this is an application, as Mr. Blendy noted, for hotel under development at the Latrobe building. The trade name is still pending at 2 East Reed Street. The property is at the corner of North Charles and East Reed Streets. Let me here. The beautiful Latrobe building dates back to 1911, and I guess part of the thing driving this case, and one of the factors that we have to meet to be eligible for the license, is a $500,000 capital investment. Because of the age of the building, the applicants and the developer, Ash NYC, is spending over $13 million just in capital improvements to the building itself, and over $6 million in electrical upgrades, HVAC upgrades as well. As a preliminary matter, we submitted an MOU and a letter of support from the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association. That should be in front of you, where we would agree to make the terms of the MOU a part of the license to the extent enforceable. We've provided as another exhibit for the board's records materials or images from other hotels that Ash NYC manages around the country. They specialize in these boutique hotels, and they really do incredible work. They have the Hotel Peter and Paul in New Orleans, the Siren Hotel in Detroit, and the Dean in Providence. They manage their own facilities, and they'll be the manager here. They have a GM who's yet to be appointed, but they run a first-class organization. As indicated in the floor plan that was exhibited or provided as part of the exhibits, this will be a 160-room hotel with an expansive main lobby that'll include a library area with coffee and cocktail and food service. There will be an outdoor seating area is proposed to be in a portion of what was formerly the parking lot accessed off North Charles Street. The hotel will also include the Tulip Room, which will be an upscale restaurant offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner service, as well as room service to the hotel's guests. there's a exceptional menu in the exhibits for the board's records as well.
Is the hotel open? Jim?
No, it's my understanding it's still under construction or development.
Okay. Okay.
And I think, well, Mr. Weber, well, I don't want to swear in, but I believe they're still several months away from completion. Miss Weber is the licensee applicant. She's a Baltimore native. She is the development director with ASH NYC and holds a master's degree in city planning and real estate development from the University of Pennsylvania. This will be her first license, but as the hotel operator and part of the owner company, they will be trusted to run a first-class organization here. I won't walk you through all the factors the board is to consider, but just note for the record that this is a unique boutique hotel redevelopment that is expected to create over 60 jobs and has the support of the community. And we'll submit on that unless the commissioners have any questions.
Seems quite unique, actually, for Baltimore. But the commissioners have questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Greenfield?
I'm sorry, no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have public comment on this, Mr. Blundy?
If any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter before the board, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. Mr. Chairman, I see no member of the public who wishes to comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams, on the basis of the materials contained in the application, your extensive proffer, and the detailed materials that you've submitted that we've had an opportunity to review, I would vote to approve this application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor hotel motel license with outdoor table service, subject to the terms of the MOU between the Mount Vernon Improvement Association, Mount Vernon Belvedere Improvement Association, and the licensees to the extent those terms are enforceable by law. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, based upon the information presented and the proffer of Mr. Williams, I also would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor hotel motel license with outdoor table service. I would also include the subject to the terms of the MOU. I would vote to apply the MOU as far as legalities.
Based upon the application before us, the proffers from Mr. Williams, I too would vote to approve the new Class B beer, wine, and liquor hotel motel license with outdoor table service, subject to the terms of the MOU to the extent they're enforceable by law.
Thank you. Ms. Russell?
Yes, I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Applicant, exhibit number 1, business plan.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Good luck.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board today. Applicant will receive follow-up instructions on how to obtain your license in the mail. Mr. Chair, are you ready for the next matter?
I am.
The next item, applicant Dogan Solis, 1741 Corporation, trading as Home Slice, 2 East Wells Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21230. This is an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license, requesting outdoor table service, off-premises catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Hurdle is counsel to this case and should be in under Mr. Kadensky's name. I see him. Yep.
Okay, Mr. Hurdle, will you identify yourself for the record, please?
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of 1741 Corporation, trading as Home Slice.
Good morning. Do you wish to proffer on this or have testimony?
Yes, I wish to proffer on this.
Please go ahead.
If you have any questions, Mr. Solis is here. Home Slice, the entity here, 1741 Corp, currently exists at 1741 Light Street. It's moving about 2.5 blocks to 2 East Wells. It's basically just changing physical locations. We are applying for a new license. I believe we submitted a capital expenditure report indicating roughly $604,000 in expenses. I think we have in excess of 75 seats, but certainly less than 125. This is an established operation. It's been around for about 10 years. The landlord at this property is part of a huge apartment complex that the building is in. I'm not sure if there's any other questions that we may have to answer at this time. Again, this is an established operation. It's just moving a couple of blocks down the street to open a new spot. And yeah, I'll turn it over to the board.
It hasn't had any problems in its current location?
My understanding is there may, I haven't checked the 10-year record. I anticipate there may have been a hiccup or two in the 10 years, but there have never been any concerns beyond that in the 10 years.
Okay. And everything else remains the same?
Absolutely. Same licensee, same entity, everything.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
I have none.
I want to make sure I'm following. So since this is a new Class B license, Mr. Hurdle, what's the seating and investment?
75 seats required, $500,000 required. We submitted a report indicating roughly 604,000. I think that's going to be a little conservative in the end. We'll probably go over that. And I believe we have 80 seats, but it could be a few more as well, depending on the layout that we ended up to finalize the seating plan.
Great. So you meet the requirements. Thank you.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We have public comment, Mr. Blendy.
If any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter before the board, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. Mr. Chair, I do not see any member of the public who wishes to be heard.
On the basis of the materials contained in the application and the extensive proffer from Mr. Hurdle, as well as the exhibits received, I would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license with outdoor table service, off-premises catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, based upon the information that was presented and the proffer of Mr. Kudinski, I also would vote to approve the application for the new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license, outdoor table service, off-premises catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
So it looks like I have to do my my ruling pretty quickly because Mr. Kudinski's standing next to Mr. Hurdle, and I feel like he's looming. He is looming, and so I assume he's the next case. But based upon the application before us and the proffer from Mr. Hurdle, I too would approve the new Class B license with outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
No exhibits for the record.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could interrupt the board, I'm sorry, this is court reporter. Can I get Mr. Hurdle's spelling?
Abraham Hurdle, Hurdle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant and counsel will receive follow-up instructions on how to obtain their license via mail. Mr. Chairman, is the board ready for the next matter?
Yes, sir.
The next item on today's docket, Jeffrey E. Bejma and Bradley K. Bimes, Redwood South LLC, trading as Werner's Restaurant, 219 to 31 East Redwood Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202. This is an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license, requesting live entertainment, outdoor table service, off-premises catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. As the commissioner noted, Mr. Kudinski is counsel for the case.
For the record, Melvin J. Kudinski, 320 North Charles Street, representing the applicants.
And will you be proffering or will they be testifying?
I think I'll proffer because we have a lot of materials already been submitted that makes their case, and I'll proffer.
You may proffer, but you should tell your clients that the chair of this board has been a regular customer of Werner's for over 30 years before the pandemic, and they are going to be held to my standards.
They told me they'd get you a part in one of the movies that's coming down there, I think.
Okay.
I think he wants a sandwich named after him, if I'm going to be honest.
What's extra cheese, that's all. For the record, as the chairman had indicated, this is a location I'm sure is familiar to most people where Werner's. They are going in there and going to expand their actual Class B licensed evaluation that was submitted by Mr. Melnick, and a very nice presentation, I must say, indicating they're up to $1,500,000 at this point. $1,500,000. It seats 115 inside, outside. It'll be 32. Have a full menu. Mr. Benchma has alcohol awareness. He has plenty of experience. He has worked over at the Alex Brown restaurant that was there for a while. He worked there. He worked for QG, worked down in Cooper's Tavern, as well as other places. So he has all the experience. Here, they're going to request off-premises catering. Live entertainment, they indicated, would be basically acoustical, just as an ambiance. They have 32 seats outside. They want to request off-premises catering and delivery of alcohol. And I think importantly in this case, and especially the way things are in the city, they did get very nice letters regarding this place from the Chesapeake Shakespeare Company, which is around. There was the old building where they had the bank in there for years and years and years, Mercantile, City Center Residents Association, Charles Street Development. The councilman, Mr. Costello, Eric Costello wrote a letter, and also Downtown Partnerships. They have the support of everybody in that area, and pump some life into that area that otherwise is missing there. And it's indicating we'll make sure that the chairman gets the new menu.
There was a license there previously, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was, and it wasn't renewed, and I think the tenant left.
So it expired. Okay, I see.
Well, the tenant has it, and it's not at that location. I don't know what he's going to do with it.
Okay. I see. And all right, do the commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Do we have public comment on this, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter before the board, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. Mr. Chair, I do not see any member of the public who wishes to testify.
I haven't been in the area in a while due to the conditions, but the last time I was there, the Redwood Street was all torn up for construction. Has it been finished, that job?
No longer.
No more construction.
No more construction.
No more construction. I think it's ready for this project.
Okay, thank you. All right, on the basis that contained in the application, the additional exhibits were submitted in support of it, including the letters of support and the proffer from Mr. Kadensky. I would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license requesting live entertainment, outdoor table service, off-premises catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, based upon the information presented and the proffer of Mr. Kadensky, I also would vote to approve the application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license for live entertainment, outdoor table service, and the off-premises catering and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Based upon the application before us, the proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I too would approve the new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license with live entertainment, outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Thank you.
Ms. Russell?
Political exhibits for the record. Applicant Exhibit 1, Business Plan. Exhibit 2, Letter of Support from Chesapeake Shakespeare Company dated 6/17/21. Exhibit 3, Letter of Support from City Center Residents Association dated 6/17/21. Exhibit number 4, Letter of Support from Charles Street Development dated 6/16/21. 5, Letter of Support from Councilman Costello dated 6/14/21. And exhibit number 6, Letter of Support from Downtown Partnership dated 6/15/21.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kadensky. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Applicant and council will receive follow-up instructions via mail about how to proceed with obtaining their license. Mr. Chair, you ready for the next matter?
Yes, sir.
The final item before the board today is applicant William Lentz and Ian Newton, Baltimore Whiskey Company, LLC, trading as Baltimore Spirits Company, 1700 West 41st Street, Unit 430, Baltimore, Maryland 21211. This is a application for a new on-premises consumption permit for the holder of a Class 1 distillery license. And Mr. Fogelman is counsel.
Okay. Will he identify himself, please?
Is my video up? Okay, give me 1 second. All right, good morning still, Your Honor. Stephen Fogelman on behalf of the applicant.
I read in the paper that you have a blog. I didn't know that.
I try to keep it a secret. Secret's out. I guess I have to start updating it more often. Thank you, though. I am here with Mr. William Lentz. Can you see us both?
Yes.
All right, I did a little product placement. We had a little time to kill here. So Mr. Lentz is co-owner of the Baltimore Whiskey Company, LLC, which trades as Baltimore Spirits Company. He's to his left is his Baltimore Epoch Straight Rye Whiskey, and to his right is his Shot Tower American Dry Gin, made right here in Baltimore. As you may be aware, under Section 2202 of the Alcoholic Beverages Article, 2202(6)(I) to be exact, a holder of a Class 1 distillery license is able to be granted a license for on-premises retail consumption of mixed drinks. And his customers who have not only purchased his wares, but also the people who come for tours to his distillery, currently are not even, certainly they're not allowed to buy drinks by the drink, but they also, which I did not know, cannot even put an ice cube in that legally without us having the privileges from the local liquor board. So in that regard, this operation is part of the Union Craft Collective. The Union Collective, I believe, is under an MOU with the community association. This is a part of the footprint of that area. And so as a tenant there, he's going to abide by all terms and conditions of any agreements made by his landlords. The capacity of the tasting room looks to be about 85 persons. Mr. Lentz will be hiring a dedicated bar manager and will also have other service staff as necessary. They will all be alcohol management certified. With that, if you have any questions for Mr. Lentz.
How long have you been in operation?
We started distilling in 2015, incorporated in 2014. We are actually the oldest rye whiskey distillery in Baltimore City.
The witness hasn't been sworn, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Lentz, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And can you just state your name for the record?
William Max Lentz.
Thank you. I do have the spelling.
So, Mr. Lentz, you have people who come through your distillery on a regular basis and you provide sample. Is that what it is?
Yes, and we mostly haven't done that for the last year and a half, but that is currently what we're licensed to do.
And now you would also be able to sell them the product?
We've been able to sell bottles, which we'll continue to do, but now we'd be able to serve mixed drinks.
I understand. Okay. All right. Do the commissioners have questions?
I have none.
No questions.
Do we have public comment, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature on the WebEx platform. Mr. Chair, I do not see any member of the public who wishes to testify.
Thank you. All right. On the basis then the materials contained in the application, Mr. Fogelman's proffer, Mr. Lentz's testimony, and any other evidence before the board, I would vote to approve the application for a new on-premises consumption permit for the holder of this Class 1 distillery license, subject to the terms of the landlord's memorandum of understanding with the community organization, to the extent those terms are enforceable by law.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Commissioner Guy? Based upon the information presented and the proffer of Mr. Fogelman, I also would approve the application for the new on-premises consumption permit for the holder of the Class 1 distillery license. And based upon the rules and regulations of his contract for the premises, I'm sorry, based upon the premises that of the MOU of his MOU. I'm sorry.
No, I join my colleagues based upon the proffer from Mr. Fogelman, the testimony for Mr. Lentz, and the application before us. I too would vote to approve the new on-premises consumption permit for the holder of this Class 1 distillery license, subject to the landlord's MOU with the community organization to the extent it's enforceable by law.
Thank you all.
No exhibits for the record.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fogelman. Good luck to your clients
Thank you. I hope you all had a great July 4th holiday.
as well.
Licensee or applicant and council will receive follow-up instructions via mail on how to proceed with obtaining their license. Mr. Chairman, that concludes all matters on today's docket. Would you like me to read the adjournment?
Please do.
The board will be in recess until Thursday, July 8th, 2021. The board shall post on its website, provide notice to the applicants and/or attorneys, and conduct a virtual hearing on this date. Please call our office at 410-396-4377 between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. with any questions or concerns that you have on this or any other matter. That concludes everything before the board, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everyone who participated in today's hearings, and particularly to the commissioners and staff. And we wish everyone a happy 4th of July, and we'll see you on July 8th.
Same to you.
We are off the record at 12:06.